Welcome to the Fiber Optic Center's Jazz Podcast Series with your host, Dave Reis, one of the area's foremost authorities on the South Coast jazz scene from the post-World War II years to today. The South Coast Artists Index thanks the Fiber Optic Center for their continued support of the arts on the South Coast and underwriting this 10-part jazz podcast series. Your host, Dave Reis, will help preserve the memory and legacy of the jazz artists coming to and from the South Coast and how they helped to shape what jazz is today. And now, Dave Reis.
Hello, I'm Dave Reis, and I'm the jazz podcast host here at South Coast Artists Index. And I'm doing my 5th podcast today with a special treat because you can't hold this guy down. He's an international jazz musician and just on the road all the time. Greg Abate, saxophonist and flutist.
Hi, Dave. Hi, David.
Just welcome.
Thank you.
I get you while you were here in the United States.
Yeah, I like being here too.
Yeah, Greg's from Rhode Island.
Yes.
Yeah, you're originally from Fall River?
I was born there.
Yeah, we've known each other since the 70s.
Amazing.
I can't believe we're that old.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Greg, we can just sit down and talk about different things. But
Yeah.
let me say who you've been with. After graduated from Berklee, he was with Ray Charles a couple of years. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I lived in Los Angeles, and I was living with several other musicians in Santa Monica, and I was working, a couple of years there in Hollywood at different clubs in a rhythm and blues band. I came from that type of playing hardcore blowing gigs with horn bands, James Brown, Wilson Pickett, Earth, Wind and Fire, Blood, Sweat and Tears, and on and on. So the gig ended that I had, and I didn't have a gig, so I was living with these guys, right? And I was like sort of living there. I wasn't making any money. Mm-hmm. So they were getting upset with me. So they said, you got to find a gig, Greg, or you can't, we can't keep supporting you, blah,
right.
blah, blah. So I went to the Music Union, Local 47 down in Hollywood. I said, what am I going to do? Going down the stairs, I see Ray Charles' name on the, I said, what's that? Ray Charles said, auditions tomorrow for Ray Charles Orchestra, new band. And, I went to his studio, and I was one of the many people that were there auditioning for a new orchestra. So, long story short, I got the gig, and I went back home that day, and I said, they said, you get a gig yet? I said, yeah, I got a gig with Ray Charles Band. He said, you're kidding me. I said, no, it's true. I said, you're lying. Yeah. So, no, it's true. So they said, wow, what the heck? How'd you do that? Well, I auditioned, and I was playing lead alto, and I was playing, and then Ray makes an entrance through the door, and he looks towards the sax section. He says, who's playing lead alto? I said, I'm Greg Abate, Mr. Charles. He says, hey, boy, I love your sound. What do you got on there for a mouthpiece? I said, well, I'm using this mouthpiece. And he says, oh, yeah, man. And then I saw some of my teachers from Berklee that were bringing charts in for Ray, Alf Clausen and Roger Newman. Yeah. And along with other charts we did, Bill Holman charts. Because Ray had the first set be all instrumental.
I know. I saw them a few times. David
wild.
Fathead Newman,
right.
Hank Crawford.
Yeah, Leroy Brown.
Right.
Leroy.
Yeah. And Ray would walk out with an alto.
Yeah, he would. He played great blues. So he's good. He played good saxophone.
Yes. I have a Milt Jackson and him and Milt Jackson, man. It's what a soulful. It's a cassette. I've had it so long. In fact, I have your cassette, Channel 1.
Oh, man. That's too much. I love that. I don't know which one you have, but this Channel 1 that was recorded on an LP, which was not as exciting as the live stuff we did. Yeah. I listen to it now. It's like, oh boy, okay.
So how long did you stay with him?
Well, it was, I guess 1973 summer, and then into the 74. Intermittently, we'd come back and stay at home for a while. So then I moved back to Rhode Island in 75 because I got homesick and I wanted to come back, and still floating around, not knowing what I should have done, but maybe it's what I should have done is what I've done. You know,
Yeah.
I came back and then I started to do what I do.
Yeah, I remember you came back. You came into main event. I forgot the guitar player used to be
Paul Murphy.
Right, and Paul Murphy was playing, and I walked in. I hear the sax player, but I didn't pay attention. I didn't know it was you. And then you walked to me at the bar, and you told me you had just got through with Ray Charles.
Yeah.
That was such a good surprise. Yeah.
You know, you do certain things for so long, and even with the Artie Shaw band in the late '80s.
Right.
I mean, when I did that playing tenor, I learned so much about the language. I mean, I learned Ray Charles. I learned all these different. I learned the Artie Shaw library. I learned more about the American Songbook, and that was like going to school in both tunes. And then go onward and onward, working with like great players. And there's another schools. Every time you play with someone, you learn a heck of a lot.
Yeah, and I have mostly all of your CDs. You gave them to me when I was on the radio. But the guys you played with, Claudio Ditti, Kenny Barron, just you played with major musicians.
I've played with some major cats.
I know.
And
I
think
that.
about it. I'm saying, how the heck did that happen?
Yep.
I mean, like
Richie Cole and Phil Woods.
right.
Yeah.
Red Rodney.
Yeah. Claudio Roditi.
Yeah, so many people.
I never forget one time I used to be volunteer with a New Bedford High School jazz band, and they got you in. I was MC for a concert here at New Bedford High School, and you had Claudio Roditi, and then you came in. He said, "No, Claudio couldn't make it. He's recording with Horace Silver." So these are the kind of guys you were playing with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that New Bedford High.
I did that.
Yeah, when you brought a trombone player instead of Claudio, and I said, "What happened?" I thought you said Claudio. And he said he's gone.
Jay Ashby.
Yes,
Marty is
Jay
Jay
Ashby.
Ashby. Yeah.
It was. Yeah. And so that showed you Claudio was playing with Horace.
Yeah, he was recording. At that time, we were going to the jazz showcase the week after, and Claudio had just done the recording with Horace.
Horace, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot of stories. He told me about Horace's music, how you have a certain staffs on the music, and the notes have a line.
Yeah.
Usually, when you reach a certain part of the staff, the lines have to go down.
Yeah.
His lines were always up, even as way up at top.
Yeah.
It was really hard to read.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love Horace. I did a tribute to him. You got the music.
I have a funny story about Horace. I always think of when I was a kid. My father were divorced when I was a baby. I was brought up by my grandparents. But when I was a kid, I'd go to Bridgeport and stay with my dad on vacation. And every Saturday, we go to this man's house, and the son was playing, and another guy on tenor, they'd be playing. I was a kid. I didn't pay any attention. So then when I got older, I got into Horace Silver, and I'm buying his LPs, I bust and everything, having no idea. I knew it was Cape Verde. I knew. And then when Song for My Father came out, I saw the man on the wagon. It was my father's friend. We went to the house every Saturday. I was a kid, and Horace was a teenager. Yeah.
Wow.
Small world.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. When I saw his father sitting on the wagon, I said, "Wow." Yeah.
Gee, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've been all over. You've met so many musicians.
I've been fortunate.
You know,
I've been
really.
fortunate. Yeah.
You're the man, the historian, man.
Yeah. Well, I've been lucky and meet guys like you. I remember.
Well, you were a big influence in my career. You helped me out.
Yeah. That's really fun. And we're talking about career. We're talking about when you started and the jazz scene then in New Bedford when you used to come. You remember how it was so active?
Yes.
And is it like this throughout the country? Where it's slowed down so much?
In certain cities and states it is. Other places it isn't.
Yeah.
Like Providence is hardly any jazz clubs.
I know.
You have Chan's in Woonsocket, which is great. That's going on since 1976, I believe. Mm-hmm. But nothing happening. But there's a lot happening in other cities.
Oh, that's good. I'm good to hear that because here, at that time we were talking about, I didn't know which gig to go to because there are 2 or 3 going on in the city, you know.
Well, in England, right? There's a jazz club in every village, every town, every city, and some of them most of them are private clubs run by membership as a members, and they bring in artists, like Scott Hamilton. I go play, and they have
Greg Abate.
A lot of it's like amazing when I started playing, and these people are relentless. They there's like they set up the stuff. They bring the PA in. They have the members show up every time. There's certain times of the week they run the club. Some clubs are every week. Some clubs are every Tuesday or every third Tuesday. It's all different.
Yeah. It's always been like that, I guess, because I remember Dexter Gordon and Johnny Griffin, all those guys, they went there to play. They stayed.
Yeah.
Because they were treated so well. The activity was so good. So it's still like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've been stretching out, playing in France too, and I just got a gig in 2025 in Austria, Vienna.
Wow.
3 nights at the Jazz Land. It's in a cave that's it was from 549, the year 549.
Wow.
The cave. And I was online. You can see it, the cave, the stage. And you look on the wall, there's all these pictures. Like there's like Phil Woods. There's like, Johnny Griffith.
Yeah.
All these cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, tell me, we're just talking here. I want you to give me give everybody information. Tell me how it was hanging out with Phil Woods, one of our greatest bebop players.
Well, that was, I never got to know Phil before that, because when I called him up a couple of times, hey, hi Phil, this is Greg Abate. He says, I know who you are. Okay, yeah, really, you know who I am? Yeah, I says, yeah, you can swing, man. I said, thank you, that's nice. I said, would you like to do this gig with me in Woonsocket at Chan's? He says, oh, no, I'm quite expensive. I said, well, what do you, he said, and call me back in a year or so. So I called back, and he says, well, you're really trying to pin me down here. So I said, yeah. So he finally did the gig, and then we had some gigs in New York, and then Boston at Scullers, and then we had this 2 nights in Cleveland at Nighttown. And that one there, I drove to his house in New Jersey, and we drove 11 hours together. So I've got my mentor and idol in the front seat, and I'm driving him, and I'm saying, Phil Woods is right over here, and so he enjoyed working with me, which is really an up for me, because I knew I could play fairly well, right? And but you have someone like that says it,
exactly.
It gives you the confidence that more confidence, which is good. It's deserving confidence. Like I do that with my students. That I'm always positive with my students, which I'm not teaching that much anymore. But I would always tell them, that's cool, man. You keep doing that, instead of like, oh, you did that wrong,
right?
And that's like John Harrison getting the needle stuck in his hands,
Yeah, you want to encourage them.
Yeah. So that's the deal. Ray, Phil was really good, a teacher, and he helped me a lot without saying, hey,
right,
do this, do that.
Yeah, I caught you guys at Chan's, and one set I really liked. I went to most of your gigs was Richie Cole, when you guys recorded live with Richie Cole. That was a funny night.
That was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Richie is another story.
Yeah. And, we're talking about Richie Cole, Phil Woods. Could you tell our listeners who they are? We're jazz fans, and that's my favorite genre, bebop. And
Richie Cole was a colleague of mine, and when we were at Berklee School of Music back in 1966 through 70. And Richie, when he was there, he was right out of high school too, but he could play his ass off. He was like, and I was like a late starter. I couldn't play. In fact, people hear me now that were at Berklee, and they said, you're not Greg Abate.
No kidding.
What happened to you? They said, you sound horrible in school. I said, well, I'm a late bloomer.
And you're so dedicated to it.
I didn't stop.
Yeah, that's why I always follow you, because bebop, I love jazz, but we all know that.
Bebop is
but my genre is bebop.
It's so free.
Yes, and that's why I always follow you.
It's complicated, and it takes a lot of determination and a lot of practice, to play and practice, to be able to play the tempos and yet make a melodic statement which sounds like it's nice.
Right.
If you don't
get too out there, it's not good for the audience.
I'm sorry.
I said if you get too out there, then the audience, unless
Right.
they're real jazz fans, are not going to appreciate it.
You know?
Yeah, so it's good the way you balance it.
But Richie was great in school, and then we got together. I called him up to do some gigs, and he said, "Yeah, we'll do something." And then he came to. We did Chan's, we did Scullers a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
Chan's maybe 2 times, and other things around the country.
Yeah.
And then we did Birdland together
Oh.
up in the north and west side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's Richie and Phil. Like I just said, just
He's Phil
You know,
Woods,
just-
yeah.
yeah. I got to meet Phil in 2014. And we recorded one CD up in Red Rock Studio in Strasbourg,
Mhm.
Pennsylvania, and that was my first CD, which is Greg Abate featuring Phil Woods. And then we did the one at Chan's a couple of years later, which was Kindred Spirits, double
Yeah.
CD.
Yeah, I was there on
That's
that
it,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. So, when you go to Europe, you go alone.
Yes,
You're
I
not
did.
going with a band. Even throughout the United States, you do that.
I have gone with the band when it was affordable for the record company.
Yeah.
Like can I say this?
You say whatever you want.
One of
You're the guest.
One of my main memories of going to Europe and having the Greg Abate featuring, I had Greg Abate, which is me, featuring Jerome Richardson, and I had Hilton Reis, Harvey Swartz at the time, and Akira Tana, and we did 9 concerts in Spain, and they were all in the mountains at different theaters. That was a great experience, and I got to hang out with Jerome Richardson.
Yeah.
I got him. He said, "What are you drinking there, Greg?" I said, "That's espresso." He said, "Let me try that." Hey, how do you drink that crap? He said. I said, "Well, you gotta take it slow, Jerome."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I mean, the guys are. It's so
Yeah.
much.
That's why I wanted you to come and tell these stories.
So when I go there now, I've been going to England for like 20 years on July, and now it's been November for like the last 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like maybe 23 gigs. That's in about a 3.5 week segment. Like I work very hard, and like my partner Carrie for 23 years, she says, "Greg, you gonna have any days off on this tour?" I said, "Well, I got one." And she says, "You got one out of like 22 gigs?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Greg, you can't. You got to take it easy a little bit."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I get on a roll,
Yeah.
So and I go to the city. I get off the train, get picked up at the train, go to the gig, meet the rhythm section, talk, and then hit it,
Mhm.
And I've learned to do that, and I like it.
Yeah, that's the question I was going to ask you. You mentioned when you meet them at a gig. So each gig you do, it's a different rhythm section? You don't
Yeah.
have anybody traveling with you?
No.
So you just walk in?
Sometimes the piano player, I'll go with the piano player
Yeah.
because we do the gig the night before,
Okay.
and I might stay at his house,
Mhm.
and we got a gig the next day, so we drive together.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. So you've gone so much, you probably know quite a few of the musicians anyway now.
In England, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, quite a few, man.
Right.
Really.
Right.
I'm sort
Yeah.
of like I'm sort of adopted there in England.
Right.
And
Yeah, I
it's
imagine
like my
that.
second country,
Yeah.
unofficially.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, so that makes it a little easier, because it must be tough just walking in, playing tunes with guys you've never played with before or don't play with
Right.
often.
Well, you get to play with them maybe the year later
Right.
at a different place, or maybe not. And new players, it varies. It's
Yeah.
all variable. But the reason the reason I got to go to England, my first gig as a soloist was in Teignmouth. It was in Devon. It's in the south. It's South England there. I was playing in California quite a bit at San Jose, and there was this club there I play once in a while, and it was called Garden City, and I used to see this older gentleman sitting in the front row with white hair, and when I first met him, he was an Englishman. He says, "Yeah, my son has a club in England, and maybe you could give him a call." And so I did that. And there was another person that lived in England that told me about a festival. And that's the Teignmouth Festival. I finally got there, so I went there. It was like started my whole career in England.
Oh, great! Yeah.
one more thing.
No,
I was doing a workshop.
Many more things. You do the talking. I just want to hear. Listen.
The memories. I was working, doing a class with a bunch of students in Timoth. The next day they had me do this class, so it was another gig, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love to teach. And one of the tenor saxophonists, the second time I met with him, he says, "Hey, Greg, why don't you come over to my house? It's like, and my wife will cook you a nice dinner and this and that, and stay." So I went, and then I stayed over. And then the next morning, I said, her name was Pam. God rest her soul, she passed away. But he's still with us. I said, "Pam, you're retired. You said you were bored. How about trying to book me around the country?" She says, "Oh, no, I couldn't do that. Oh, I couldn't." She started me off. She got me gigs. She said, "Greg, I got these couple of gigs here. You want to?" I said, "How'd you do that?" So that like it spread.
Right.
I spread all around because
Yeah.
I was playing. Because being from the States, they say, "This is what they say. We heard that you were around, that you played. We'd like to have you play at our club."
Yes.
That's the thing, And with that, I tell my students, you have to go and take it. You got to do something. You can't just sit home and think that the phone's going to ring, even though you play really, really well.
Mm-hmm. You were talk about students. You were teaching in the university here in Rhode Island, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good experience.
Oh, good.
Rhode Island College.
Yeah.
I taught I had developed the jazz program, adjunct studies for jazz combo, which I had 4 combos a week, and I had a jazz theory course, which is like supposed to be 3 hours in one class a week, and then private lessons. And I was teaching saxophone studies, like technique and how to develop a good logical solo, and all this. There's so much to do. And I did that right up to COVID, which I still did a couple of classes online. That was like in COVID. And then the enrollment just dropped. There was no more, the new chairperson came in, and they weren't like jazz. They didn't nurture it.
Right.
So I did a lot. I can't believe I did Tuesdays and Wednesdays from like about 2:00 to 7, right? And I'd be gigging on the road. If I come home on Monday, I'd fly home, get home on Monday, and just have the day, and then go teach the next day. And then Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, I might go back on the road. I might not. And sometimes I come back in the morning of the day I teach and go right from the airport to the school. And they did all this stuff. And I was telling Kerry yesterday, I was coming down my stairs in my house, and I was thinking, oh, it's Tuesday. I'm supposed to be going to Rick, Rhode Island College. And I said to myself, I'm glad I'm not going, because the whole magic of it is gone.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. It takes the magic out.
That was part of my life there. It was very, very cool. I loved it. Yeah.
And when we got you at the New Bedford High School, that was quite a few years ago, you were working with Selma, weren't you?
I still am.
Oh, you're still?
Yeah,
but Selma. I know you were at that time,
Yeah, been a long time, man.
Wow.
Yeah. They still sponsor me, co-sponsor, so they'll put a couple of $100 into the fee.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've got like in January I've got California-based Stanford University, Aragon High School, and Hillsdale High School, three high schools, and then I got a gig at a club.
All right,
and
go ahead.
That makes it feasible for me to do, because there's enough money to make it a profit and all.
Yeah, we're talking about Selma. We mentioned you're a great alto bebop player, but we got to mention you play all the reeds and the flute.
And I love them all.
Yes.
I'm on the Downbeat Readers poll for alto, right?
Right.
But man, I play a lot of tenor, not as much as alto, but flute I love, soprano,
baritone.
They're all my instrument when I play it, and I was told that you can only have one horn. One horn.
Is that right? Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I
just want to let that out, because we're talking about your alto playing and somebody that doesn't know about bebop or anything.
Yeah.
I just want them to know you play them all.
They can look at my website or just look online and Google me. You can see a lot. even live performances like in New York and
Right. Yeah.
different
On
places.
YouTube.
Yeah, it's
I watch a
thing.
lot of them up there. Yeah.
I love the whole aspect of it.
Yeah.
I'm excited because this year is quite busy.
Great.
You know.
Good to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I follow your schedule. I said, man, this guy. Even when you're not in Europe, you're doing a lot of states here, United States. So
I've
you
got
just keep moving.
I've got some.
Yeah.
I'm just updating my website dates now. I got to do all the England dates in my first couple of September dates, like this week in Quebec City, and then New York City at Smalls, and then there's some things happening around here.
Mm-hmm.
I had updated, but I've got to get back to do October, November. That's where I'm going back to England in December.
Yeah. That's why when they asked me to do these jazz podcasts, I thought about you. I said, I don't know if I'll ever be able to get them. And I told you, let me know when you can come. And you called me last week. You texted me last week, so we did it. Yeah, because
I'm really happy. I was so happy. I always loved coming on your show.
Yeah.
UMass
Dartmouth, you had quite a few.
How do you feel about that? You feel like, that was like a thing like I feel about Rick, although you've been there longer than I've been teaching at Berklee College.
Right. Well, I felt bad about it. I feel bad about it because I play my records at home. But I found out doing radio, I had a lot of shut-ins, man, musicians that are sick. I had one guy couldn't wait till Wednesday nights. At the end, I was Wednesday nights. He couldn't wait, and then he'd want to talk to me so much. A few people want, and I like to talk about the jazz, but I'm on the air. I gave him my phone number, so we talk. So I felt bad for them. I can tell you a funny story. There was one woman who used to call all the time. She liked Joe Williams. I would play Joe Williams. And she lived near the university. So one day I told her, I'm going to bring you some Joe Williams CDs and Frank Sinatra. And I made sure every show I played it for her. And she was in the 90s. But she lived near the university. I said, but I'll drop them off on the way back. And I was on till 10. So I knocked on the door, and she says, she's on the phone. She said, no, that's Dave Reis. I know who it is. So then after that, she passed away. Her family called me. Her daughters called me. They said, my mother loved listening to your program so much, and she loved it so much. She says, would you do the readings at her mass? So
That's so nice.
So I did.
Yeah.
But after we went to breakfast and everything, then they thanked me and everything. We thank you because my mother loved to listen to you so much. You were so good to her. But not only that, we want to know who this man was coming to a 90-year-old mother's house at 10 o'clock.
I see, yeah.
It was so funny. But that's what I felt bad is there were these people, and I kept talking to them on the phone and stuff like that. But they would look forward to that, and there was, elderly shut-in people.
That's a nice thing to do.
I didn't even knew that about radio until I went. I figured I'm just going to play radio.
Well, because people know you on the radio.
Yeah, and then you find out how they're shut in and everything. That radio was very important to them. Yeah.
Jeez.
But 26 years. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I felt bad when that happened.
Yeah.
But you're probably over the shock now, right?
Oh yeah. And
maybe something else
and then
happened.
Most of those people. This happened, right? It's a podcast.
Yeah.
But
I know, but
for music. But most of those people by now have passed away. Like this woman, they were elderly people that were shut in, and they look forward to the radio. I didn't realize it until I went on the radio.
Let me ask you about the other DJs at the studio.
Mm-hmm.
It was Rick
Almeida.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, I texted him yesterday.
Okay. And there was a woman there.
Gloria Clark.
Yeah.
In fact, she went with me a couple of times to Chan's. We went to go. In fact, when you did the thing with Richie Cole, the two of us went up.
Okay.
When you guys recorded, you and Richie Cole.
So that was basically that was
Gloria
the whole
Clark.
crew,
Then
right?
it was Tom Megison. Tom Megison found you in Europe.
I can't believe
that was funny. He sent me the picture. Look where I'm at. Yeah, Tom was on.
Spice of Life.
Tom was on there like right from the beginning. He was on longer than I was.
Cool, man.
Yeah, he started with.
I looked at him. I said, I know.
Yeah.
Tom.
Yeah, I have that picture on my phone. He sent it to me. Yeah. So Tom was there.
He tapped me on the shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah, when we get together with John Harrison, Tom's always with John Harrison. When Tom keeps him company.
I haven't seen him here since then.
Yeah. Well, it's not like before. There was so many gigs going on around here. You always bumped into somebody
Yeah,
at one gig or
there was
the
a lot
other.
of good gigs in the main,
Yeah,
the
main
the
event.
bomb shelter.
Yeah.
And it was another place.
The band club. Then there was Piccadilly.
Yeah, I never played that.
Yeah, that was earlier. In fact, a lot of artists started. Before that, from Jimmy Smith used to play there.
Wow.
He played with the Don Gardner Trio. The trio wasn't that good, and I never forget one day we pulled up. I walk on up, and it's a hearse in front of Piccadilly, and that's how he carried his organ, Jimmy Smith.
Oh.
And then after that, he became famous.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of guys came through there on their way up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then they had jam sessions Sunday afternoons. They had music at night Sunday afternoons. Yeah.
How about the Celebrity Club?
Oh, yes, I remember that.
I never did that. I never went there.
Yeah. I only went there a couple of times.
I was
myself because I was underage when I went in there.
You were, probably.
Yeah.
You went
but
with
they
somebody.
never. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I lived in Woonsocket. I grew up there, and I went to all the schools there. Right.
Yeah.
And the band director I had never told me about. He wasn't a jazz guy, but he was a great classical pianist.
Uh-huh.
But I had no input from anybody from Providence in the jazz scene, like Bovie's, at the time, the Celebrity Club. That was something I missed out. But I mean, still okay.
Yeah. Now that you brought up Rhode Island, we got to mention that you're in the Rhode Island Hall of Fame, Greg Abate.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Well, why were you surprised?
Well, because I was going to two of my colleagues' celebrations, and I remember going to Duke Belair and Bob Pederuti and Artie Cabral.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there saying, yeah, guys, wow, congratulations. And in my mind saying, geez, I wonder if I'll ever get to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm on the road, and like a couple of months later, I never talked to the guy, can you get me on? And he said, oh, Greg, this is like, so-and-so, we'd like to have you, we'd like to induct you into the, are you kidding? He says, no. No, so I said, wow, the universe does things, right?
Yeah. There's another event. You mentioned Duke Belair.
Yeah.
Bovie's on Monday nights. I remember you used to
That's
come in.
That's a school of music. That was a very valuable school of music.
I know. Yeah.
Dick Johnson.
Yeah.
Art Pelosi. You see sitting next to these guys.
Dino Gavoni was a young player there. I remember he was a young player. He played the alto, whatever they needed, he would play.
He played everything.
Yeah.
He's a great player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
like his sound. Energy's great, too.
Yeah. Every Monday night we'd go up there when we had a chance.
Do you ever go up to Plymouth? Or you going to come to Plymouth, to the
Yeah,
Spice?
I go. I'm going Thursday. You're there the 12th, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Rick Almeida. And in fact, last time Rick and I went, we go to Plymouth, but he's going to be on vacation, so I'm going to try to make it.
Excellent.
The 12th, September 12th. Tell him where you're at.
Oh, well, I'm going to be at the Spire Center for Performing Arts in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
The date?
September 12th.
All right. Okay. Hopefully I'll be there. Yeah.
Is this going?
Who have you got with you?
I've got Chris Taylor on piano, and I've got Todd Baker on the bass, and Gary Johnson.
Oh, Gary Johnson. Yeah.
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 It's only an hour and 15-minute set.
Right.
It turns out to be longer than that.
Yeah.
I think what I did last time, if you were there last time,
I think so.
I played almost an hour and 45 minutes.
Yep.
I just got carried away and just didn't even think
Yeah,
of the
and you
time.
look tired when you're walking off. You worked, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you always do.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's so good.
So thinking about school, with my school, when I was in the 5th grade, 6th grade, and I was in the room. My mom was doing ironing of clothes, and then we had a second floor we lived in, and a door. It was a glass door like that. And so this man came to the door, and he had these things carrying his arms, right? And had one thing in here, which was the trombone, right? And the other thing was a clarinet and a trumpet.
Wow.
And so my mom let him in, and at that time you let people in your home, you trust everybody.
Yes.
And he said, would you like to rent an instrument for your son to take music lessons on Saturday at the school? It's a group lesson. It's 50 cents every week. And my mother looked at me and says, do you think you want to do something like that? I said, yeah, I want to play that one. And I was pointing to the trombone. And you're not playing that. You got to play that one. So it's clarinet, which I love. I've been getting into the clarinet again.
Oh,
the sound is awesome.
Yeah.
You can feel it goes right through your body.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. But so I used to go to those classes every Saturday.
Yeah, and that was
tooting along.
Yeah, that was the question I was going to ask you. How did you get started in music, and how did you get started in jazz? What attracted you to jazz?
And then
I was going to ask you that.
And thanks, man.
Yeah.
And I was in the 6th grade. I was at a Grove Street school, one of the old schools that's still there. So I go by that sometimes when I used to go to Woonsocket to visit my folks. I reminisce about that, and I'm kind of that type of person. Sometimes I just go and sit in the back of my yard where I used to live in my car. I just think about things, and I would, enjoy the moments of memories of things, But then I went to elementary school, and let's see, it was like 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, and 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to junior high school, 9th grade, where I was playing clarinet in the classical band. I was good enough to play and read. That's barely. But then the jazz band. My band director says, "Well, you why don't you play alto, play saxophone?" So my mom and dad bought me a brand new Selmer Mark VI. Mm-hmm. At the time, I remember it was like about $450,
which was a lot of money at that time. Yeah.
Playing that, and then I did that, and then Dave Brubeck just came out with the hit Take 5.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody was trying to play Take 5,
right?
And there was one alto player that was a lot better than me, and he got to play Take 5 because he was better. And I said, "Geez, I don't know, why can't I play that?" I said, "Geez," So then I kept going, graduating, and then I went to Roger Williams Junior College. I wasn't going to music school, and I went there, and I had one semester, and I hated it. And I hated biology, and I liked all that stuff, So someone says, "Well, why don't you go to Berklee?" Well, no, actually, I auditioned for the New England Conservatory on clarinet, and I flunked. So then I went to Berklee, and I started studying my alto sax, and they took me in there, and I learned a lot of stuff on paper, but I learned how to do it in my journey through my life.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, I was wondering what led you towards jazz. So through school.
I tell you though, I was not a very good reader or a jazz improviser. I kept trying to get into Charlie Mariano's jazz workshop.
Oh yeah.
He was one of my jazz teachers there one semester, and Herb Pomeroy had one. And every time I go, I try to play, and then they say, "No, you're not ready, Greg." I said, "Really? Give me a chance." And, "No, you can't. You got." They didn't let you play in if you weren't in the right stable moment.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to play in the big band with Herb, and I went to his office, and he was bluntly honest with me. He says, "Greg, you're not ready for this. You'll be embarrassed. If I put you there, you'll be embarrassed."
Yeah. Well, you got ready, because I remember going one Monday years after, and the whole night was you.
Where?
With Duke Belair at Bofies. It was one Monday you were guest artist.
Oh, yeah. I brought the charts that were done for me by the Airmen of Note. I played with them.
That's right.
Yeah. How did that go?
It was good. I thought it was good. Yeah. Well, Bofies was amazing.
When I
Monday night, you never knew who you were going to see there.
That's right.
Somebody would bring a guest in from New York. Yeah. So
when I was with Ray, I wasn't the greatest reader. Okay, that was my weak point, reading, especially like fast things and this thing. But I was telling everybody that there was such a magical thing that I still remember. I don't know if I'm just imagining this, but when I sat down and started to read, it's like I had a pair of glasses that let me read, and I could understand how to do it.
Yeah.
I said,
funny how things work.
Yeah. It was spooky, man.
But it worked. No, look at you now, man. Yeah.
So Ray, but the story with Ray is to get, I was there going every day for 4 days because they would call you physically on no cell phones. I lived in Santa Monica.
Right.
And I'd wait for the phone to ring in the morning. They'd call me. "Oh, Mr. Charles would like you to come back. Mr. Charles would like you to come back." And then 3 times I think it was the third time I went there. I said I said to the band manager, I said, I'd like to speak to Ray. And he said, well, Ray's in his studio up there, you know, he's just looking out, like checking out the whole rehearsal and everything. So he said, I'll see if he want to see you. And so I went up there and I knocked on the door, and he said, who's that? I said, it's Greg Abate. What's up, boy? Come on in. What's on your mind? I said, well, Ray, you know, I've been coming here for 3 days. You don't know me well, but I'm a nervous kind of guy, and I do I have this gig or don't I have it? And he says, there's a lot of music there, boy. He said, do you think you can handle it? I said, of course I can. He says, well, you got it.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
That's how I got it.
Yeah, and there was some great guys in that band. You know.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw them quite a few times, and in a way, they'd come out, play 2 or 3 songs before he came out.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I was hoping they'd play another one before he came out.
Right.
Hank Crawford. That was a good band you
Hank
ran,
Crawford,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, David
Oh,
Fathead
great.
Newman.
Yeah, let's see.
The trumpet
David.
player. I'm bad with names now, man.
Oh man, I can't think of him.
Yeah.
He's a great trumpet player.
Yeah, I know. I'm bad with names.
So many players. I
Yeah.
can't remember sometimes. I
Yeah.
can't. So things happen in music where sometimes you get a little bit of help from your friends.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
and that I like to help out my friends, and but sometimes I don't really get a lot of help, and you know, I can say it. It's the truth. You know,
Yeah.
some people don't want to share things.
Right. That's
But
true.
what is it?
Yeah.
With Claudio, right? Claudio shared some stuff with me.
Yeah.
He got me to go to the jazz showcase 3 times,
Yeah.
play 6 nights a week there with him, and Richie Cole. I got a gig in New York for 6 nights, Fat Tuesdays, with him, and then with Claudio, and then stuff like that. And Scott Hamilton, right? My agent that books me in England, she was married to Spike Robinson.
Yeah.
Her name is Susan May Robinson, and she's one of the ones that has 4 jazz clubs.
Wow.
And she totes the PA to all these different places,
Yeah.
and I play at her clubs. And one day she said, Greg, you know, there's this place in Austria Jazzland. You should check it out. She gave me the name and everything. So, and she said that Scott Hamilton plays there and Howard Alden. So both those guys I know.
Yeah.
And I asked Scott if he would put a word for me, and he said, sure. Yeah. And Howard Alden did the same. I had Howard Alden at the Chans with me once.
Yes. Yeah.
So when I called, his name was Alex Mildhart, and he says, oh, yeah, we can do something, but it has to be a year or so ahead. Yeah. Let's put these dates down. Yeah. I did it. Yeah. And then it kept going like that 3 times. And to my astonishment, unfortunately, this man developed Alzheimer's.
Oh, yeah.
And every time I called back, I didn't know. He said, I don't remember. I don't think I did that. I said, yeah, I wrote it in my book, Axel. And he says, oh, no, I got someone else's days. So this went on a few times.
Yeah.
And then they had another person that was handling it. And he finally got handling it. And so I've got the dates in 2025, October 30, 31, and November 1.
Yeah, I'm glad you're sharing all this. Let people know it's not just get a gig and you're playing. You got to work for different things.
Yeah, not only do you have to work, you have to be... you have to have a tough skin not to get discouraged when you get negative criticism, which happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see, what was it? Oh, yeah. When I got the gig with Ray, there was an alto player that had the lead alto chair before me, maybe a couple of years before, after Lockjaw left. And he said, hey, Greg, come up to my place. You know, I can help you out with the music. Help you out. And so long story short, I drove to his house, and all he did was chew me out. He said, you can't play, man. What's the matter with you? You think you can do? I said, you asked me to come here. I said, yeah, I just wanted to tell you that. You know, you can't play. I said, okay.
Yeah.
So I went back and told Ray that, and he was pissed. He said, he's never going to work for me again.
Yeah.
I said, you know, too bad, Greg. You had to go through that.
Yeah.
So if some people give you that, so that could...
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, and guys didn't go to Berklee. They were learning jazz here. They were musicians. They learned at Cape Verdean Band Club. Most of the jazz musicians that started when I was a kid, my uncle Joe Livramento and Paul Gonsalves lived with us. And they were my babysitters because everybody else in the family was at work. So as a kid, so that's why I've absorbed all this. But I can remember they get guys to get together in this house, and one other tenor player showed the other one how he did that. They would help each other, man. How'd you get that? How'd you do that? You know, and that's how they learned. But they started playing. Not Paul. Paul came. Paul was playing guitar with his brothers here, Cape Verdean music. His father taught him how to play, and then my grandmother let him live with us because the family's Pawtucket, and the Cape Verdeans used to do that. They'd have somebody. So he and Joe,
like a family, right?
Yeah, and that's how the old Cape Verdeans were. So then he was playing guitar, and he asked the guys, "Can I bring my sax?" They were teenagers, and they said, "Yeah." When they heard him play the sax, he never played it anymore. But I used to sit around, and they were helping each other. One tenor player showed them, "This is how you did," you know, and that's how. But they started out in a marching band. The Cape Verdean men had a marching band, and they taught them how to play instruments. Wow. But they called it solfege. They'd go every Saturday, and they'd give them music. When they learned to read all the music, then they gave them the instruments.
Oh,
so when they had the marching bands, and one guy, Jimmy Lombard was a baritone player.
Oh yeah, Jimmy.
And his brother Ray just said, "Let's stop playing jazz," because they saw Duke Ellington. So they had the horns, and that's how it started. Yeah.
Was the other baritone player? I see him in New Mexico a lot when I played there, but he passed away.
From this area?
Yeah.
Not Jimmy Lombard.
No.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I can't think of
Arthur Hazard.
Oh, Art Hazard. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about it.
Yeah, Arthur. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. That's another thing. When you're traveling like that in Europe, and you bump into guys that you haven't seen in a while.
Right, and also in the States, there's people relocate, and they say, "Come on over. I moved here now. I see you're playing here tomorrow night. Why don't you come over, and I'll come to the show." I say, "Yeah."
Yeah. Do you get a lot of time to socialize when you're doing those gigs in Europe? During the day? Do you get time?
Yeah, I do.
You're not just going gig to gig.
I still stay at a lot of people's homes, guest rooms, and stuff.
That's what I mean.
And then of course hotels and.
Yeah.
So I get to know the people and the families, and they become part of my life. My it's amazing. All this stuff, you know. I was talking about criticism and constructive criticism, and having the. Yeah, I don't have that. Sometimes it's hard for me to give a constructive negative criticism because a lot of times people just they get pissed off at you. What are you telling me that for? Who do you think you are? That type of thing, So one time I was playing with Richie Haddix Sr. and Richie Haddix Jr.
Yeah.
At
two nice guys, man.
Yeah, very nice. In fact, I saw Richie in Atlanta. I was playing
out there.
Did?
Yeah.
Like 2 years ago in Marcy.
Good. Yeah.
They had me over for dinner.
Oh,
it was so good to see them, man.
Yeah.
They're like family.
Yeah.
But Richie and his dad, and there was Jack Warner on drums. And we played at the Pyramid Club in New Bedford. It was a club. They had jazz there.
Yeah.
And so Mr. Haddix Sr. said to me, "Hey, Greg, what do you want to play next?" I said, "All the Things You Are." He says, "Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Da. We played it, right? And so at the end of the tune, he looks at me. He says, "Greg, that's all the things you ain't." I said, "What?" And I said, He's right. I can play on the changes. I'm going to go home. I'm going to learn how to play on chords and not jive around.
Yeah. He was a very nice man. I knew him since I was a kid. We lived up to West End, yeah.
But that was cool.
Yeah.
To say that,
Yeah, he did a lot of hotels and stuff like that by himself. He worked quite with Mr. Haddix.
Yeah.
And Dick and I are close to the same age. Yeah, and Marcy, I knew them.
Jack Warner was quite a guy.
Yeah, we had some great.
Learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
So many people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anything else you want to cover? We could go on forever.
Well, I'm trying to think of stuff I could talk about, but it's like so much that I've done. I
know.
Well, I want to say, like my first recording was at Live at Birdland on a record label called Candid. And the reason did I tell you how I got that?
No.
Well, it was 1990. and I was living in Cranston, and I had a gig in Montreal at the 2080 Club. And it was a blizzard. It was a big, heavy snowstorm that day, and I left in the morning. And my wife at the time said, "You're crazy to go up there." I says, "I gotta go. I want to do this gig. I'm gonna go." So I got there, and there was nobody in the club. I finally made it to Montreal in like 9 hours. It was a long, hard drive in the snow, and so I was there, and no one was there. And I went to get a coffee, and they said, "Don't worry. They usually plow the sidewalks, and then people will come in." Well, they came in, but there was only like maybe 5 or 6 people in the gig,
Mm-hmm.
And we played the first set, had an intermission, and this guy calls me over at the bar. He says, "Greg, you ever play in New York?" I says, "Not a lot. I played there with Ray Charles a lot, but not really a lot on my own." He says, I'm one of the people that helps produce records for the Candid Jazz label in England, and this is my partner here that lives in New York. Give him a call and tell him you talked to me, and see." So that went on for like maybe a couple of years. Actually, it was 1989, and then finally they recorded me with Candid. But the guy said to Alan Bates in England, he says, Greg's a great saxophone player. And the answer he gave to him was like, "There's so many great saxophone players. Why should I record Greg?"
Oh, man.
Right? So I said, okay. Then he said, okay. This is what I heard. He said, "Okay, let's do it." So Birdland, 2 nights. It got me James Williams, Rufus Reid, and Kenny Washington.
Yep.
And I walked in there, and I did that.
Uh-huh.
And so I remember this one thing. Rufus Reid's wife was there. She was kind of like nice, She said to me, "Aren't you afraid?" I said, "Well, no, I'm not." She said, "Aren't you?" And I felt like saying, "Why should I be afraid?"
Yeah.
I mean, sure, these are great players, but I'm doing something. I want to develop my career.
Exactly.
And I'm lucky to do that.
They had to start too.
Yeah. But she's not a musician.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, the reason I have that gig is because I drove to Montreal in a snowstorm, and I got that and that
See how
catalyst.
things work. You never know.
But then you come and play. But I did 2-3 records with Candid,
Uh-huh.
and then some other labels and blah. You were playing all my stuff.
Yep.
And then one time I came to your studio and you said, "I wish Neil Weiss would record you." And like you put a word in, and that was another catalyst because Neil Weiss, he recorded me 4 or 5 times.
Yes.
In the last 10 years, my career has gone, really higher because I do travel a lot. And he says, "You're one of the few that tour, Greg." So,
Yes.
but so that's been good. And I wanted to ask you, like, because I gave you that CD
Mm-hmm.
from Live at Leicester, England. I think we should do a Whaling City tune too, because it's only fair. Because I want Alan. I appreciate Neil, what he did.
We're going to listen to a tune by Greg Abate, and this is from his CD entitled Road to Forever, and with him is Tim Ray Trio. Tim's on piano, John Lockwood's on bass, and Mark Walker on drums. And the tune we're going to listen to is Whaling City Sound. And this CD is on Whaling City Sound label.
You've been listening to the South Coast Artists Index Jazz Podcast Series, graciously underwritten by the Fiber Optics Center, helping make the best cable assemblies in the world. Located in New Bedford, Massachusetts, the Fiber Optics Center also sponsored the jazz mural in the New Bedford Whaling National Historical Park. For more information, visit them at focenter.com. And now, back to the Fiber Optics Center's Jazz Podcast Series with your host, Dave Reis.
One, I said, this would be good because it's like something for my European recordings.
Okay.
It's on Woodville Records.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the saxophone player I'm playing with is one of the cream of the crop guys in England, Alan Barnes. So you're going to enjoy that.
Okay, before we continue on with the conversation, we're going to listen to something from Greg's latest CD, Greg Abate, my guest. And the CD tune is Hard House. Greg's on saxophone, along with Alan Barnes, also on saxophone. They both play alto and baritone. John Donaldson's the piano player. Andrew Kleindirt is the double bass player. And Spike Wells on drums. How does it feel, like playing his music? A guy like Kenny Barron, one of the most popular piano players ever, and you're playing his music and he's playing on your gig. So it must be such a feeling.
Oh, the session. We didn't do a gig. His agent didn't want him to do any gigs.
Right. But I'm talking about the
It was a great feeling. And then being at Rudy Van Gelder's studio.
Right.
This was during COVID. It was like the safe time because they canceled the first session in June, and then they pushed it all the way up to like November or September.
Yeah.
And I had done all the arrangements. I found that was a great session, but it was too polite. It could have been more of a burning thing. Have you heard it?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, of course.
The one.
Yeah, with Kenny Barron.
Yeah.
Magic Dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great to do that, and he liked that. He was very honored. He said that I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good concept.
Right. Yeah. And he's still recording with just about everybody.
Yeah.
He and Ron Carter. Those two guys, man.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah. I went up to Neil when Jerry Gibbs had them up in Brooklyn. I went with Neil. I spent a couple of days watching them record. He and Ron Carter with Jerry Gibbs.
Yeah. Speaking about Jerry Gibbs, I'm playing the Corpus Christi Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
Coming up in October, and I got Jerry playing drums with me.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And two other guys from San Antonio, George Prado and his son. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah. We've mentioned some of the other guys you've played with: Claudio Ditti, Rufus Reed, Richie Cole,
George Mraz,
Phil Woods, George Mraz.
Yeah, Kenny Barron. Barry Harris.
Yeah.
Mickey Roker, Billy Hart.
Yeah, you played them.
Yeah.
And you played Kenny Barron's tunes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did all the Kenny.
There's so many players I was thinking about my life, and I was surprised that there was a list, but I don't say it to boast, but it's just like.
Yeah. Yeah, I get, as I'm looking through your CDs, and I notice,
I played with once a trumpet player, but I haven't seen him since we played at Corpus. He's a big band lead trumpet player. Marvin Stamm.
Oh, Marvin Stamm.
Yeah, I haven't seen him for a while.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yeah.
Trumpet.
So you've had an experience, man.
Yeah.
And how many years now you've been doing it? I know it was like around 78 when you were coming, in the 70s when you were coming to New Bedford City, and that's when we first met, when Bobby was playing.
Yeah, well, I was like 1973, it was Ray Charles. Yeah. And then from then on, it was like my career evolved into different schools of Artie Shaw Band, tenor sax, and then traveling to Canada and all that, playing all in Europe.
Yeah, Artie Shaw Band was led by Dick Johnson, right?
Yes.
Another great alto player from my area. Sax player, period.
And clarinet, yeah. He's
sax
great.
Player. Like we say alto player, but you guys play other
Yeah, he played mostly, he played tenor.
Right.
And soprano, clarinet. And he stopped playing flute for a while because he said, I had to keep it up, I love playing flute. I practiced it yesterday, about an hour, just to keep it up. I was thinking about that with him.
Yeah.
So much history with it. He was really one of my big influences.
Nice man too.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, and now you know his son.
Oh yeah, Gary.
Gary's your drummer.
No, he's
For years. I know you guys have been together.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. Cause
you'll see him on Thursday.
You're with another generation. That shows how long you've been around.
Yeah, I know it. Huh?
Playing with the guys, man. That's great. It's great.
Jeez,
It's so good to talk to you.
Thanks.
And maybe anything else you want to cover?
I'm sure there's going to be when I get in the car.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about anyway. Just want to say, like, I got a lot of. I'm lucky and fortunate to be able to do the gigs, and they got some new things coming up, and
it's so good.
It's nice for the support, and thanks for all the listeners out there that support jazz.
And we're good friends, but I really love what you're doing because I'm a bebop man.
Yeah,
and you play it so well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I play some bop on Thursday.
Yeah.
That's the 12th, right?
The 12th, September 12th, the Spire. Yeah. The Spire over in Plymouth. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. All right, thanks for coming by, man.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great trip up there.
I will, and I'll see you next week.
Yeah, unless something happens, I'll be there.
Same here.
You take care, buddy.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to the Fiber Optic Center's Jazz Podcast Series with your host, Dave Reis. Please go to theartistindex.com for more information about the Fiber Optic Center, Dave Reis, or this 10-part jazz podcast series.